Alright, so today we're going to look at drawing another orthographic figure. We're going to draw this shape right here, and we're also going to see what happens when you have an invisible line, or a hidden line, but you have another line that would show up instead of it. So let's start off with this one right here, and let's get our front view. I'm going to make this my front view. One of the things I always make sure to do is use a ruler. Always make sure to do a ruler. And I'm going to come out on these three sides, and I'm going to make a mark 3 by 3 dots in. That way I'm always equidistant from all the corners that I'm going to be drawing in. So the very first line that I'm going to do is from here all the way to over here. We're going to say that each block is worth 3 dots or demarcations on the graphing paper. So from here to here would take up 6 dots, or 9 demarcations, sorry. So from here to here, we're going to go 9, 3 times 3. Alright, now we're going to draw this line right here. From here to here, that'll be another 3. Now I'm going to go from here, and I'm going to draw a line all the way from here to here, because this will be one solid line on our picture. I always try to make sure that lines that I can draw as one solid line, I do draw as one solid line. It makes the pictures look much better. From here to here, another line of 3. Now I have to draw these sections right here. So from here all the way down to here, which you can see it'll be one solid line, and from here all the way to here, which will be another solid line. From here to here. Now I'm going to finish it up with this line right here up to the top, from here to here. And that is my front view. Now in our first drawing we labeled this as front, but from here on out we're not going to label it as front because we're going to use this space at a later time for using measurements and things like that. So our next view we're going to go to is, if this is my front view, this would be my top view. So I'm going to draw from here to here first, and I'm going to draw it up in this top corner. Alright, so from here to here would be 9 demarcations on the graph paper. I'm going to go from here to here, which would be 3. And you can see whenever I'm doing this that if you look, this line right here is equal with this line over here. That's because they represent the same side of the figure. See here, I flip this over, it's this line over here. And that's really important. That's why we make sure to put the dots in the corner so everything will line up evenly. Alright, so let's go from here to here. And right here, since we have a block standing up, here it's proud, it's standing, it's large, we can draw this as one solid line. So from here to here, we'll do 9 demarcations on our graph paper. Alright, looking good so far. Now we're going to go from here in the middle of my graph, from here to here, and we're going to draw from this one from here to here. Alright, so it's going to be like this. And so far, you can see the figures look very, very similar. There we go. And our last mark will be this line right here, spot. From here to here. Alright, it's looking good so far. As you can see, we've got our front, we've got our top, which would be this side right here. Now all we have left is our right side. And you'll notice that I always every time I'm holding my figure, I always make sure to put it back at the front view. That way if I want to look at the top, I can go from the front, kind of press the top, and then I always flip it over. So I know that this is my top. But then if I want to look at my right side, I always take it back to front view. And I like to put it on top of my drawing. That way I just keep track of where I'm at. So our last side we have left is our right side. Now this side is going to be a little interesting, because if we look at our figure, we've got this block right here, which is visible. All right, it's a visible lines. You can see them when we draw them. We're going to draw them solid. But what we also have is, if you look at the back side, flip it over, we've also got another block there. So a lot of times people get really confused and they're wondering, well, I've got a hidden line back here and a hidden line right here on these two sides. Should I draw this as hidden or should I draw it as solid? And the rule is, anytime you can draw a solid line, you draw a solid line. Because this portion of the picture is much more important to us than what's on the back side. If we had a really complex figure, we'd actually draw two sets of these and we'd make a different front that would be opposite of the other side so we could get all the different sides of the figure. Luckily, our shapes are usually simple enough that these three figures will show us everything that we need to know about them. So let's look at our right side. It's going to be a fairly simple shape. What we just want to make sure is that we don't draw those hidden lines. Even though those hidden lines are there, we've got this line, these lines will take precedence and they will show up instead. So we're going to start from here to here. I'm going to draw towards our corner. All right. Next, we're going to go from here to here up top. And lastly, we're going to go from here to here. From here down. Now, when we're going down, if you look, if we go from here down, that wouldn't be the full line. We're going to go from here all the way down to here. We're going to get our first solid line in over our hidden. Right there. And lastly, we've got this line here up, and then we got from here all the way over. And we're just going to knock those both out at once. So I'm going to go up 3, and then I'm going to go over 6. All right, and now you can see we're mostly done with our orthographic. All right, now one thing I really want to make sure everybody understands is that usually we wouldn't draw with a pen. We'd want to use a pencil so we can change or erase our work. As far as in class, professionals would use a pen because they wouldn't want their work to be erased over and they would want it to be permanent. But here, where we make mistakes on occasion, there's nothing wrong with using a pencil. All right, so speaking of using a pencil, we're going to draw our guidelines with a pencil for sure, just because if I drew it with pen, it would be very hard to tell the difference between the two. But in reality, in class, I'd like to see all of these drawn with pencil. That way if you make a mistake, you can fix your mistake. But we're going to come in here, we're going to get our guidelines in. Guidelines are lighter than your original lines. They don't need to be too dark, but the main point is you're seeing how sides are connected, how they're parts of the same side of the figure. You can overdo guidelines, but usually if you, on a figure like this, if you just make sure to put a guideline for all the major changes, it really helps. All right, so now you can see my guidelines are in here, denoting that if we were looking at our figure like this, my top line here is the same as my top line here. And this is the same as this. All right, all very important. All right, so what we'll worry about next time is, with both the figures that we've worked on so far, we'll look at doing dimension lines, and I'll explain how those work heavily with our guidelines. We'll also look at doing isographics, which we'll draw isographics separately on different types of paper, and then we'll also draw them on smaller sheets and actually paste them into our corner. And that's why we always leave this corner empty. If you look down here, Remember, this is always your front, this is always your right, and this is always your top figure. If you draw them out of order, that means somebody would pick up the paper and think that it's a different shape than what you're working on. So, all right, next time we'll work on isographic figures, but that looks like that's good for today.